Hello everyone, welcome to the channel of MeteoMark Weather. It's great to have you here with me for this edition of Winter Storm Outlook. We're going to be watching several areas with winter storm action along the Gulf Coast and East Coast, as well as inland into parts of the Ohio Valley, and that lake effect snow really kicking in. And could some of you here into the Northeast be seeing some snowfall breaking out for Sunday night, and early Monday? We'll take a look and see just how much snow we could be looking at along the I-95 and coastal areas. And for Tuesday into Wednesday, what is brewing here across the South? We could actually be seeing snowfall accumulations along the Gulf Coast and into the southeastern coastal areas, all the way down into northern Florida. And this next Arctic blast next week could be one for the record books, as we get some areas that may not even get out of the single digits or below zero. And could we be seeing a renewed surge of tropical moisture across much of the Caribbean? And could this mean more moisture for our winter storms across the East Coast and the Deep South? Let's get into it. All right, so let's take a look at the GFS here. I'm going to show you our system. There it is, Friday. Get some bursts of snow here, but it's not going to be that impressive. Some areas may see up to a couple inches with this. This moves into the Northeast on 4 p.m. on Saturday. Now look at that. That's quick moving. This is the system I wanted to tell you about here on... This is later on Sunday night, especially like this is 7 a.m. Sunday. So it doesn't start to get going until later Sunday, but here it is as 10 a.m. See how this is starting to expand north here? The GFS is going more crazy with this system than the Euro, and I'll show you the Euro momentarily here, but here it is, snow blossoming towards the north and the east here, Harrisburg, New York City, Washington, D.C. Now, just watch this as we go out here in time. 4 p.m., snow's really lining up here along the I-95 corridor. We really start to get this banding from D.C. all the way up to Boston here. Here's 7 p.m. on your Sunday. So this is kind of interesting that we're seeing these snowfall, accumulations set up right on the frontal end of this big Arctic blast. So it's not a very intense low pressure system, but it does have a lot of moisture with it. And it is the GFS that is showing significant snowfall accumulations approaching low-end warning criteria here, 6 inches or more, 6 to 8. So I'll show you those snowfall amounts momentarily here, but look at this. Here's 10 p.m. on Sunday night, the 19th here. It looks really interesting here if you're in New York City, all the way up to Boston. European is a bit lower on the total, still advisory criteria, and I'll show you the European momentarily. But look at this. Getting up into the Northeast, 1 a.m. on Monday morning. We're still pushing this towards Southeast Canada, Nova Scotia, New Brunswick. You're going to get it on the axle. This is going to cut us down from approaching those foot of snow type things. Amounts. So it's very progressive. It's not a blasting low pressure system. And then behind it, this is where we get the northwest flow and we start to get that lake effect kicking in. And our next system really starts to blossom along the Gulf Coast here right around January 21st at 4 a.m. So this is Tuesday morning. Look at this. There's a couple areas that snow will start to break out here. South Texas, Southeast Texas, along the Gulf Coast towards Louisiana. And look at this, snow mixing in around Jacksonville and Gainesville here and towards Panama City. This is crazy. Here's 7 a.m., 10 a.m. You do start to see this area of low pressure take effect just southeast of Brownsville. Now look at Corpus Christi or rain, but you're over at heavy snow here in Houston and New Orleans. And this continues through 1 p.m., and 4 p.m. on Tuesday and starts to end the back edge here in Texas. So we'll go over those snowfall amounts momentarily. It's going to get really interesting here on the northern edge of this system as we do have this big high just to the north over the Midwest. That's going to be bleeding that cold air south and eastward here. And 10 p.m. on Tuesday, look what's happening here. Rain changing to snow, Panama City, Tallahassee, Savannah, Charleston, all the way up the coastline here to Wilmington and the Outer Banks. You could be seeing snowfall here through 1 a.m. as we get on into the early morning hours of Wednesday. And that pushes out to sea there. You see high pressure. And then we get our next system. This is going out to January 24th. Yeah, this could be more of an inland cutter with Ohio Valley into interior Northeast getting some significant accumulations. All right, so look at the European run here. You can see our systems are moving into this area of the Mississippi River Valley. So yeah, we get into late Friday night, Saturday morning. Here is our area of low pressure moisture out ahead of it here. And watch how quickly this moves. It is insane how fast this is going to move right up through the Ohio Valley into the Appalachians in the Northeast. That's why this system does not look that impressive with overall snowfall accumulations. And look at the low pretty much stays off the coast with energy behind it with another area of low. And then we have a snow shower and rain and snow mix up here in the parts of the Northeast. Now watch this as we get into Sunday. This is where things get a little bit interesting here on our European run. This system across the Southeast is going to start riding up the coastline here. And this is essentially where we do start to see, it's not going to be a blockbuster snow event, but we do have light snow that could be breaking out into parts of the mid-Atlantic. This is Sunday morning into Sunday afternoon. You can see that pivoting up along New Jersey, Long Island, downstate New York, all the way up through Connecticut, Rhode Island, Massachusetts, and eventually up towards Maine and Nova Scotia here as we head on into Monday morning here. Now, the isobars get pretty tight behind it. That means the wind's going to be blasting. We do have a little bit of a lake effect response on west-northwesterly winds, so those favored lake snow areas. Now, watch this system down here. This is the next one we're going to watch. We have some tropical moisture on the south side of this high-pressure system, and this is where we're going to get a low-pressure system really begin to crank. It's still showing up here, even on this run of the European model. The low pressure initializing somewhere down here into the Western Gulf, which would bring the rain snow line here on Tuesday morning all the way down to the Gulf Coast, places like Houston, maybe even as far south as Corpus Christi, New Orleans. You could see the white stuff here, heavy wet snow. And look at that. That pivots all the way Tuesday. And look at that. That snow right around Tallahassee, Panama City, these areas, southern Georgia. Yeah, that is quite crazy. All the way up through the Carolinas here. And look at that. We have a big 1042 millibar high hanging right up here across the Ohio Valley. Now, you do see it is not a terribly strong low. It does have a lot of tropical moisture with it, but it remains very progressive and squelched pretty far to the south. I know some of you up here across the north are really frustrated by that, but that's what's happening with the Euro. Look at that. Mixed precipitation all the way down in through parts of, the peninsula, the northern peninsula of Florida through Jacksonville area too. That is crazy. We're going to have some really cold air with this big push next week, this Arctic blast. And then, of course, next week we get a few more Gulf systems trying to spin up here as we head through next Friday, the 24th. And we get a spin up off the East Coast, still too early to get into this one, but that's pretty interesting. Look how close it comes to the mid-Atlantic and the Northeast coast. And then through the end of the month, you can see we get some bigger storms that could be more significant. We're kind of shooting darts at a dartboard here, but look at this far out anyways. 29th of January, that's showing a pretty big, decent snowstorm up here across the mid-Atlantic and the Northeast. Wow, that 980, it's a 986 millibar low here, but I caution you because we're out beyond 300 hours. And of course, this is going to change. And you can see this weather pattern. It just dives from Colorado through the Gulf Coast and then up the East Coast. And let's look at our snowfall amounts here on our European run. So there's that first initial shot, Thursday evening, what's left of it. And then we get another one on Saturday. Yeah, you can see a couple inches, but it's the lake effect that really kicks in with that Arctic blast behind it. We'll zoom in here momentarily, and there's that southern snowstorm here. Yeah, we've backed off on the snowfall totals to more realistic here. So, yeah, we're going to zoom in here as well, but some areas could see 2 to 5 inches of the heavy wet stuff down here. And then look at it, as we go longer term towards the end of the month, you can see where the activity is going to be, not only through the Rockies here, but look at the mid-Atlantic, Ohio Valley into the Northeast. We could see some big, huge snowstorms here, so even across the South as well. And if we go right over to the GFS model, let's make sure we have that latest run. Yeah, look at this. So here across the East, we have the Eastern Great Lakes. You'll get a couple inches on Friday night and Saturday. Then the snow belts really start to kick in, those 6 to 12 inch plus. Central Appalachians here through West Virginia. But look at this. The GFS is still really blasting this storm. This is actually for later Sunday into early Monday. Look at that. Even clipping the eastern Catskills here, parts of the Hudson Valley, New Jersey, all the way up through southeastern and central New England here. It could get kind of interesting if the GFS verifies. That's a solid 6 to 8, some areas 10 inches. And then as we go out longer term here, next Thursday and Friday, it's showing a Ohio Valley low pressure system. Now, what happens down south here? The Tuesday storm into Wednesday, it's not showing up as much here on the GFS. Obviously, you can see coastal Texas there getting upwards of 6 inch plus, but it kind of fizzles here through parts of Georgia and the Carolinas, maybe a couple inches here off the coast of North Carolina. But yeah, as we just progress out longer term, you can see very much so, just like the European, the GFS going crazy with snowfall totals from the Ohio Valley, Eastern Great Lakes into the Northeast. All right, let's take the Northeast here for our GFS. Look at that. There's our Sunday night, Monday system. If this does verify, the European is more tepid on this system, 2 to 4 inches on average, whereas the GFS is like 6 to 8 inches on average here. I know most of you in this corridor would really like the GFS to be correct on this. We'll see what happens here. It's going to be close, but either way, it looks like you are going to be getting some snow in this region, so that's looking pretty exciting. So as we just go a little bit further out here, on the GFS, you can see most of the systems after this are either lake effect or further inland here, where we're really going to pile up the snow. Over the next couple weeks, we could have some areas close to 2 to 3 feet. As we go over here to the European run, there's that system as we head on into Saturday. Here's the Sunday system. So I wanted to show you that it's actually Sunday, more like Sunday night into Monday. This is more of a generalized 2 to 4 inches with locally higher, close to 5 inches. So yeah, European showing a little bit less fanfare with the system. Still showing snow in areas that haven't seen it in a long time. So that's nice. But then as we continue through next week, yeah, you see the lake effect really kick in, especially northeast of Cleveland, up towards Erie, South Buffalo, and then the Tug Hill up here. You could be getting upwards of 2 to 4 feet in some of these areas. And then look at this. As we head towards the 25th, 26th, 27th, yeah, we do start to get some of these inland storms. And this is where the European goes really crazy with an end-of-month storm. We'll see if this holds true. It's beyond 300 hours, though, so take it with a grain of salt. So let's go down here with the GFS model. This would be our Tuesday morning into early Wednesday event. Look at this. Yeah, maybe a little bit up here later next week into Oklahoma. But the big story is going to be this Texas into Louisiana, potentially stretching eastward as well. But, right around the Houston area, we're pretty consistent with these model runs of 2 to 5 inches. Some areas approaching 6 inches here in these purple zones. And that takes us down to like the Galveston area almost. So some of these areas could be seeing some significant snowfall accumulation. So it's going to get pretty interesting over the next several days here. So stay tuned. So let's go over to our European run here. Yeah, the Euro is a little bit lower, but it is pretty realistic here. 2 to 4 inches. Locally higher, it has the bullseye over here in south central Louisiana towards Baton Rouge area, just northwest of New Orleans here. So right around Houston, we have about 4.5, close to 5 inches. So it's going to get really interesting as we go out here in time. So here with our European run, this is where the European extends our system, more closer to late Tuesday and Wednesday. Look at through the panhandle. This is crazy. 2-3 inches down here along Panama City area, Tallahassee, all the way up to south central Georgia. 3 to 4 inches in some of these bands, and then riding up the Carolina coastlines here. As we get up here into the mid-Atlantic, parts of the Ohio Valley, yeah, there's our system as we get into Saturday. We're, a couple inches. Cleveland right around another 2 inches. Erie 4. Binghamton about 1.5 inches. And then look at this. This is our late Sunday night, Monday system. The Europeans going with a 2 to as much as 4-inch event up here through D.C. all the way up to Atlantic City, Philly, New York City, Long Island, and all of southern part here of New England. And then as we go further out in time, we have a system that European is taking this just off the coast towards the middle part of next week. And then we get that Ohio Valley into the mid-Atlantic system. This is that system towards Wednesday. This is come the end of the month, though. Look at this. 29th into the 30th. That's showing like a blizzard really blasting up through parts of the mid-Atlantic, Appalachians into the Northeast. Now let's flip over to the GFS here. There's that couple inches on Saturday, blasting up through the central Appalachians as we get this storm that the GFS is really blowing up here with a lot of moisture and cold air. Look at this. I'm going to zoom in further up the coast here momentarily, but look at this. Monday, the 20th. Yeah, we could be looking at snow in D.C., 5 to 6. New York City, close to 9. Boston, up towards 6. Philly, about 6. So these areas, look at even the Catskills getting upwards of 6 to 7 in the Hudson Valley. Right around 4 to 5 here, so it could get kind of interesting. Stay tuned. We go further out, we get some inland cutters here on the GFS model. Total liquid equivalent precipitation here on our European run. Yeah, you can see where the activity is going to be in the east, especially along the Gulf Coast and East Coast areas, and of course the Great Lakes. And then eventually towards the end of the month as we get, further inland here. But you get the idea. If we just back this up a bit, let's go out to about next Thursday or Friday. Here we go. You can see the Gulf Coast, Florida. Yeah, you're going to be in the 2.5 to 5-inch range. So a lot of tropical moisture. Really stormy times ahead here. And along the Gulf Coast, some of this could be frozen, and a lot of this will be frozen up here into parts of the Ohio Valley into the Northeast. We're averaging out to about, anywhere from about 1/3 to 3/4 of an inch here. And then on the Gulf Coast, we're averaging 1 to 2.5 inches. All right, so let's take a look at our future radar here as we progress through your Friday here. So, yeah, there's not much weather happening until you go down to the mid-Mississippi River Valley and then some snow up here in northern Michigan. This is through, look at this. Most of the day Friday is just a few snow showers in the east here. But look at this. As we get into 4 a.m., yeah, showers and thunder showers across the south here, maybe some wet snowflakes in the Appalachians, but this is where the interesting weather starts. It's a fast mover, though, so accumulations are going to be light. Marginal, you're going to be teetering right on 32, 33 degrees here. So it starts out as rain here in Cleveland and transitions to snow later Saturday morning, and then right around noon, you see that spreading east here. Still snowing in Cleveland. Pittsburgh, you're starting to get some flakes here. Harrisburg, it's a rain and snow mix, and then towards the I-81 corridor around 1 p.m., you do start to get these convective-type snows banding setting up here. So some areas will see a couple inches. Most areas will be an inch or less. And then behind it, you see the lake effect streamers trying to kick in here on a northwest flow with some scattered snow showers throughout the Appalachians here. And Robert Stone from the near Jamestown, New York area in a lake effect snow belt. This is where all the lake effect really starts to crank. It has been cranking. This was this past Wednesday here. Take a look at this. This is January 15th. Just beautiful scene. It had to take quite a few breaks with that snow removal. Even though it's fluffy, it does pile up, and, it's a lot to remove. Look at that. That is a lot of snow just piling up. He's getting out there and enjoying it. It's been a very snowy winter so far for him. Oh, so the upper air pattern here, taking our European model first, you can see that trough moving out. We got a ridge developing for the first part of this weekend. It's short-lived, though. Look at that Arctic blast. It's going to be moving in across eastern North America here. We're going to see some extremely cold air these next several days, and we're just going to see trough after trough after trough. Particularly towards the end of the month, some of these look very potent, but I want to draw your attention up here to Alaska. We're going to start to see some blocking, so we're going to have to keep an eye on that because that could really get some troughiness. Now the European model's showing extreme troughiness for the end of January, whereas just a couple days ago, it was showing ridging. So this is a negatively tilted trough. That's that blizzard that the Euro is really starting to, try to nail here, but it's it's beyond 300 hours out, so we cannot say for certain. The pattern is supportive, though. So let's flip over to the GFS here. Yeah, as we go out here in time, you can see, yeah, next week is just brutal across the eastern Canada, eastern United States. Anywhere you go, it's going to be well below average temperatures. Here's through the 22nd. And then we do get a ridge right around the 23rd into the 24th, so we get a little bit of a reprieve here before the next trough moves in right around the 25th. Now let's go through the end of the month. Yeah, this is where the GFS differs from the Euro. The GFS goes with a massive firecracker ridge, whereas the Euro is going with a massive trough with a blizzard along the U.S. East Coast. But look at this. Quickly behind it, a trough moves through. It's very progressive, though, and a ridge just takes its place. So we're going to have to see which one of these wins out. It's kind of curious. Usually when you get these omega blocks here in the Gulf of Alaska, you get big troughs in the east, but the GFS is going with a ridge instead. So if we take a look at the NAO index here, yeah, the big story is it's neutral right now. We're actually going to be slipping towards negative, and then by the end of the month, we'll go slightly positive here. So it's kind of all over the place. So if we look at our MJO index, yeah, we are in phase 1, very active phase for Eastern North America, but we will slowly be heading towards 2 and eventually 3 by the time we get into February. What that ultimately means once we progress towards 3 and 4 is the party's almost over for all that heavy snow and extreme cold. I mean, it's still possible to get it, but it's not going to be as prevalent as we've been getting it here in January. All right, so for the Caribbean here, we'll take the GFS first here. Yeah, you can see what's going to be happening the next several days. It does start off a little bit dry. You do have a few showers across Central America, Jamaica, Hispaniola. The more wetter weather is over here into parts of the Lesser Antilles. As we head through the weekend into early next week, we do start to see that moist flow really start to kick back in here. Now, there it is, showers on those east-northeasterly trade winds. And here it is on the 20th. We do start to get moisture surges here, and I want to show you up here across the Gulf of Mexico. That's what that area of low pressure, but that's going to help draw some of this tropical moisture across Central America, as well as from the east. You do start to see some of these gusty showers here approaching parts of the Virgin Islands. Look at this up here in parts of the northern Bahamas through Florida. You're really going to be inundated with a lot of stormy weather and heavy rainfall. And that cold front is actually going to make it down into the Yucatan Peninsula here. And that's going to kick up some of these shower and thunderstorm activity. Now you see some showers around Jamaica here, the Cayman Islands, looking a little bit drier here through parts of the north central Caribbean islands as we head through the 23rd into the 24th. But you get the idea. We do have another frontal boundary that's going to try to make it south and eastward here. We haven't had one that made it all the way across the Caribbean yet. Made it pretty far south, but not quite there. So this one's going to make a run right around the 25th into the 26th. You can see that making a push here. Lots of heavy gusty showers here across northern Honduras, all the way down in through Costa Rica and Panama here. And you're going to start to see those showers increase around the Cayman Islands and Jamaica, all the way through the Bahamas. Now, look at this. We do have some showers through the Lesser Antilles, a little bit drier around Hispaniola, around the Dominican Republic. But as we get through the end of the month here, the common theme is we're going to try to get these fronts a little bit further to the south each time. This one approaching Jamaica here by the 31st has little headway, unfortunately, to scour out your air with the tropical moisture. But here it is. At least it looks a little bit clearer, and then we start to see a little bit of moisture coming in from the east-northeast here. And thanks for Tropical Tidbits. I wanted to show you the European run here. Here is our shower activity. The first part of this forecast period through this weekend looks drier across Central America with a little bit more around Costa Rica, Nicaragua, and Panama. But you do have some showers there moving through the Lesser Antilles. And then look at that. That heads to the northwest. And we start to meet up with all this frontal boundary tropical moisture action pluming up here towards the north. And as you can see, as we go out here in time through next week, look at this surge. Is really showing up nice here on the European run. You can see that frontal boundary making its way into Central America, the Western Caribbean, and very little fanfare, though. It does kind of wash out. And then look at this. We just have a very scattered shower type of thing with more heavier showers towards Central America, which I'll show you those rainfall amounts momentarily. But all in all, you can see the trend as we head through the end of the month Into the first part of February, we're still looking a bit wetter than normal here and warmer and more humid than average. So for the tropics here, I take the GFS first. Yeah, as we head through next week, the rest of this week looks a little dry, but then we get into next week, things start to moisten up a bit, especially into the Western Caribbean here. This is where we're going to really start to see some tropical moisture through Costa Rica here, Nicaragua, upwards of 400 millimeters. We get the north coast of Honduras close to 200 millimeters up through Belize and all the way up to Cancun here, closer to 100 to 150. And then, of course, northeastern Jamaica. Most of Jamaica will be dry with just a few showers over the next several days. But northeast Jamaica, especially towards Portland Parish, that's where you could get upwards of 40 to 60 millimeters, especially the north coast here of Dominican Republic and Puerto Rico, heading up towards 100 millimeters, get you up towards 3.5 inches of rain. And flipping over to our European run here, you can see across Central America, all through this week through the end of the month here. This is going to be the trend. Surging moisture. Obviously, we're going to get those amounts between, 150, 250 millimeters, especially along the east coast here of Nicaragua, Costa Rica, and the north coast of Honduras, all the way through the east coast of Belize, all the way up to Yucatan here. You can see where the moisture is going. Florida is going to be in for a tremendous moisture surge, especially as we head on into next week, into the following week. So watch out and look at this. Moisture surges here through Jamaica and through Hispaniola and Puerto Rico. And heading to the eastern Caribbean here, yeah, things look pretty interesting with those northeasterly trade winds. We're really going to get, some moisture above average for this time of year. Some of the Lesser Antilles from Trinidad and Tobago up to the Virgin Islands could see closer to 70 to 100 millimeters of rainfall. Watch out, you could get clipped with 2 to 4 inches in some areas. And the GFS showing a very similar story through the end of this month. Really moist flow, and there's that conveyor belt up there across the northern Bahamas and through Florida. So let's take a look at your Canadian winter storm outlook. Things are going to get really interesting here. We start out with a strong Alberta clipper blasting across Ontario and Quebec here as we head the next couple of days into the weekend. Now, it does get kind of quiet with the exception for southeast Canada. This storm from the United States might actually be heading up through parts of southeast Canada, and we could be looking at Nova Scotia, New Brunswick, as well as Newfoundland here, Prince Edward Island. So that's going to be heading up towards the Canadian Maritimes, and we could be looking at a quieter weather pattern until we get towards the 24th here. We start to see a Pacific system here along British Columbia, and our next system riding up a little bit further inland across the United States. This could spread some significant snow from Toronto, Ottawa, Montreal, Quebec City, and then some big-time snows up towards New Brunswick and eventually Newfoundland here. But then, behind it, the only show in town is going to be the system across British Columbia, and then we get another parade of moisture heading into southern Ontario and Quebec. So we're going to make up for some lost time here. This low heading right up through the St. Lawrence River Valley, all the way up into southern Quebec with more heavy snow likely, and clear and cold conditions remain for Canada through the end of the month into the first part of February. So for our Canadian snowfall amounts here, let's flip over to snow amounts, not snow depth. So as we go out near in time, look at this. Yeah, this is our European run. It's going crazy with snowfall totals here into southeast Canada, 15 to as much as 25 to close to 30 centimeters. Some areas here through New Brunswick, Nova Scotia, Newfoundland, over to Prince Edward Island could be getting upwards of 30, 40, maybe 50 centimeters in some of these areas. So it's going to be kind of crazy west coast as well. Central areas, you'll get more sane amounts right around 13 to 20 centimeters on average. And flipping over to the GFS model, yeah, it's a pretty similar picture here. So, wow. Actually, we're getting further inland here with some of these heavy snows, 30 to 50 centimeters deep here into eastern Ontario and Quebec. And before we continue with more weather coverage, check out these amazing, awesome maps from my affiliate here. I am proud to announce that I am now an affiliate with Trilogy Maps. TrilogyMaps.com, bringing you the most digital, customizable maps found nowhere else on the internet. These maps are simply stunning. It's an advanced layering system that makes these maps great for making forecast maps with ease or any other maps that you would like to display important information on. The resolution on these maps is simply amazing. From the detail of everything here in the States, and you can also create stunning, digital, professional layered maps from also across the entire world. And don't forget, in checkout, the discount code option, use my code, MeteoMark, hit apply, and you will get 20% off your order. So if you want the most professional, customizable, and affordable weather maps found nowhere else on the internet, look no further than TrilogyMaps.com. Link in the description down below along with your discount code. All right, so temperatures are going to be the huge story here. As we go out here in time, you can see it does look like there's a warming trend in the midsection here, and it will be eroding this cold in the northeast as we hold into some 30s here. And then look at this. Zoom those 40s up into parts of the southern Ohio Valley and the mid-Atlantic, but look what's coming down the pike here. Single digits, even single digits below zero here in North Dakota and Minnesota. This is going to spill south and eastward here. Look at Sunday. We're down to the freezing line. It's heading southeast fast here, and we're negative 10s below zero. You know those wind chills are going to be brutal. Into Monday, look at this. Into parts of Ohio. It looks like the whole state of Ohio will be in the single digits for highs into western New York and western Pennsylvania. We're just spilling that massive cold shield southward, even below freezing in North Georgia, parts of northern North Carolina through North Texas here. And look at this. As we stretch into Tuesday, January 21st, look at this single-digit air just blasting into parts of the Northeast and New England. That's going to be brutal. Probably Tuesday is your worst day for this. We try to start to moderate it a little bit Wednesday, if you can call this a moderation, but look at that. Teens interior with some single-digit readings still the norm, and we're trying to warm it up here into parts of Texas. But I just want to go backwards a day. Yeah, this is the day you could start to see some snow breaking out across parts of the South. The extended forecast from hometown viewers, Binghamton, Susquehanna, Upper Susquehanna, River Valley, New York, and Pennsylvania. As we get through the weekend here, Friday into the weekend, yeah, Friday's sunny and nice, upper 30s, that's really nice. But look at this, into Friday night and Saturday, we get increasing clouds with a chance of rain and snow showers likely on Saturday. Very little accumulation, maybe up to an inch in some areas, but we're not talking about a major storm here. Into Saturday night, for that matter, into Sunday, things get a little bit colder, but look at that Arctic front blast through Sunday night, and we are looking much colder Monday and Tuesday with highs only around 10 and lows below zero.